So it's a beautiful Monday, so let's jump into yet again another Transformers Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformers Slag podcast Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a half-decent job here in the Transformer world, patreon.com/protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below to find the link to join the Patreon. What does it get you if you join the Patreon? It gets your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward. Gets you access to the Transformer Slag Discord, where we have all kinds of cool stuff. Lore downloads, sales. Save money on your hobby. There's always sales every week in the Transformer world, and we try to document it, make sure you know where it is and how to get it so you could buy your toys on the cheap. Depending on what tier, you might even get a little gift in the mail, a little something something, or even access to a Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question and be able to ask one to be read here on the podcast. And we got one here today from Cordion, a.k.a. Trevor. And Trevor wants to know, hey, Proto Man, it's been a while since I've sent in a Patreon listener question, so I thought I'd make an interesting one for the subject. Do you think that a 6-inch line of Transformer human figures would sell well enough in production for something similar to like the RED line? I'm thinking of figures that are in scale with the Star Wars Black Series or the G.I. Joe classifieds. We have plenty of humans out there that range from G1, Japanese G1, animated Prime, and etc. Would it sell at that scale? And you know what's interesting? Trevor sent this question, I want to say 2-3 weeks ago, and a lot has changed since this question was posed, because we ended up getting our G.I. Joe crossover collaborative, and then we learned about Transformers Earthspark and the human connections in relation to that. Now, would it sell well? History would say no. I hate to say it. A lot of times when humans have been involved in Transformer product, and they weren't always the overarching part of the product, let's say Human Alliance, right? Where you get a Transformer figure with a little human figure that could be a cockpit driver or something. I mean, a Human Alliance figure is awesome on its own. It's almost an alternators figure in a lot of ways. But the human component, the human figure, is just, it's extra on the side. And you would think, like, with all the stuff that was going on with the Michael Bay movies and how humans were such a large component of that, why we never got some really decent human figures from the Michael Bay movies, despite its very strong footprint in pop culture. Let's not get into the discussion if those movies are good or bad. That's a different story. Or if you like the designs or not. Let's talk about how much pop culture and the mainstream embraced it, and if money could be made from that. How come we don't have a pop vinyl of Sam Witwicky? How come we never got a 3 1/4 Sam Witwicky figure or a 6-inch figure or anything like that? Yeah, we got a little, Robot Heroes Sam Witwicky figure running with the Matrix. We got a bunch of pack-in Human Alliance Sam Witwicky figures, but never something standalone, because the belief was that he wasn't strong enough to make the sale on its own to just have that Shia LaBeouf figure. Fun fact, if you want a decent Sam Witwicky figure, look at the Indiana Jones 3 1/4 inch line that they did for the Crystal Skull, and look for Mutt. There's a really good Shia LaBeouf Sam Witwicky figure you could get through that. It's the one that comes with the snake. Even Repro Labels, I think, did a Repro Label sheet, so you could turn it even more into Sam Witwicky with his t-shirt and stuff. But that's a whole other story. But the point is, we never got like a decent movie figures of those characters. So it's like, why wouldn't you get a decent Michaela figure? Only these small little badly painted Human Alliance figures and stuff. So how come we didn't see more of that? And that would be the best chance, because then when you look at iconic Generation 1 humans, how come we never got a decent Spike figure? Oh, we got a Headmasters, equivalency. It's Fortress Maximus's head. That's Spike, right? Yeah, sure, okay. And then we got like some PVC stuff here and there and little figures that came with masterpieces, but never a standalone awesome, Spike Witwicky, the yellow hard hat and everything figure. Why did we never get that? Because the market wasn't there for it. We got examples like that. Like the first time we got a half decent human figure that was standalone we got to go all the way back to Transformers Superlink, aka Energon, when on the Microman side, they released a kicker figure that was standalone. And then on the American side, just to play it safe, they still included a Transformer figure, a brand new high wire that was like a deluxe scale, but they still included a G.I. Joe-esque kind of kicker figure. And those ones didn't sell well, both on the Japanese side when it comes to the kicker figure with Microman, which, by the way, it's very fragile too, so pick that up with caution, very fragile mold. And the kicker on the, unfortunately, on the Energon side also. You know, it's on an O-ring. It's not very good, that one either, because sooner or later something's going to break. And that one too, it's the same problem, where it didn't sell very well and no one really cared. And then when you fast forward, I mean, there's so many other attempts to sell standalone human figures in the Transformer world. Probably the best example was the Kotobukiya, not the Kotobukiya one, the Gutukuru sets that they did, where they did the Master Force characters of Minerva and God Ginrai or Jinrai, just the human form, and those didn't sell well. There's too much evidence that shows that the human component is not the selling component, like Kissplay or Binaltech Asterix, or again, Human Alliance, which didn't sell well, especially in Dark of the Moon. They were some of the worst selling product that was on clearance, outside of, like, say, a Tuner Mudflap and all that kind of stuff, but that's another story. So if history says that, like, you know, there's not a lot of interest, at what point would that be the case? I mean, even when you look at something like Transformers Prime, where they had the little human characters packed in for the entertainment pack with Miko, Raph, and Jack, and we just ended up in this situation where we just got those figures, and they were a big part of the show, but they didn't bother to make figures. Look at someone, well, technically not a human, spoiler, but even someone like Sari, you know, didn't get any official product of Sari, even though she had a transforming element even later on. So history shows that there really isn't an interest. And, you know, now, as of this recording, we have a G.I. Joe collaborative Megatron that comes with a 3 1/4 reissue of the 1985 Baroness. And maybe you could argue, oh, maybe we could have some 3 1/4 sized human characters to be compatible with future Transformer product. Maybe not 6-inch, but 3 1/4. Much like that Mutt figure I was just talking about from Indiana Jones for Shia LaBeouf. But at the same time, they've tried 3 1/4. And that was when Fun Publications tried to do the Only Human stuff, where they did Rodimus and they did RC, and then they did, of course, Old Snake and Marissa Fairbairn. They didn't sell well. Literally up until the day Fun Publications closed their doors, they still had leftover stock. And it just shows that just the interest isn't there. Transformer fans want to buy Transformer characters, and if you invested in a 6-inch line, and think about also the price margins, like think about what Black Series toys cost, or G.I. Joe Classifieds, or even the 6-inch Marvel Legends, and how much those cost. Do you think someone's going to want to pay those kind of numbers, that MSRP, for a Spike Witwicky, or for a, at that point, give me your top 3. You know, give me your top 3. You're in the boardroom, and you're like, you could pick, now let's do 4. Perfect case assortment of 4. Give me 4 figures that are humans and Transformers that you know will sell very well and not just peg-warm. So you go, okay, Spike Witwicky, classic season 1 design. And then after that, I go, ooh, maybe we could get people to buy a, Sari, maybe depending, maybe older season 3 Sari, I guess. Have all those extra components and the interchangeable mask and weapons, sure, without the transforming component, obviously. And then after that, who's the other 2? What are you going to do? Carly? You're going to do Sam Witwicky? Maybe Sam Witwicky would probably just for the mainstream. And then what's that going to be, that last 4th one? Who would that be? Would it be Jack, Miko? Would it be one of the new humans, maybe to coincide with the Earthspark series that we're getting, one of the new kids or something? It's a tough one. And then when you have those 4 for me, do you think they'll even sell well? Do you think those will be a runaway success? Or is it just going to be like a G1 Megatron in the RED series at full price, shelf warming right now? So it's a tough one. I don't think it would sell. I think the only way we could get human figures is what we've had historically in the past is pack-ins. And unfortunately, when you have pack-ins, you lose some of the budget of what could be the product. It ends up being held back. So I personally think it wouldn't do well. I mean, I would love like a whole line of Master Force characters because I love Master Force. Give me my human Road King figure. I would go nuts for that. Or Ranger or like, Metal Hawk, in business suit. But what I like doesn't necessarily transfer over into money making. The secret is, when you're talking business, is to separate what you would enjoy and more what would be able to make money, and be able to honestly, recognize that and focus on that. And I know for a fact that even though I would love an entire, like if someone told me, oh, we're going to do a Master Force line that's completely 6-inch and it's going to have the budget of Marvel Legends or Classified, I'd be all over it. But it also would sell terribly, in my opinion, and I would be all over it, but it would sell terribly. So I hope that kind of answers it. I mean, I think that if they would do, it would have to be 3 1/4. I think that that's kind of the future for human figures. Do 3 1/4. It would have more of a chance, and it could kind of be line compatible in a lot of ways. And I think people would dig it. It's less intensive on the budget for Hasbro to do 3 1/4. You could have parts and pieces that could be interchangeable or remoldable, like G.I. Joe figures really are, because a lot of those arm and legs and torsos and crotches could be used across different other molds later on. So it has repaint potential and remolding potential, both for the G.I. Joe line and for Transformers. It's one way to look at it. I mean, there's a lot of things you'd have to dive deep into, but at the end of the day, I don't think it would sell well. I think people they don't want that. There's a small percentage that'll get that Spike figure. The hardcore animated fans might get that Sari figure. But when you're talking margins of retail, where over 100,000 units exist across a Walmart, a Target, and a Walgreens, I don't think there's just enough people that would care. And I think it would be a dead line. It would really, again, history has spoken when it comes to that. But I hope that answers that question, Trevor. I hope it does. And if you want to be like Trevor and ask a Patreon listener question, help support the podcast, or you just want to support the podcast and just come hang out in the Discord, or you just want to throw us a couple of bucks a month and let us know we're doing a decent job, again, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pin comment or description below, and rock out with the robots in disguise.